Cool. Yeah. Well, do we want to introduce Jake at all at the beginning of this episode?
No, we just shouldn't at all.
Yeah. Just ignore the elephant in the room.
Just pretend it's not a thing.
Yeah.
I think last time we did a list, I was not really introduced, and I kind of just snuck in there.
Really?
I think that was maybe because it was your like third time on, so we just like, we don't need.
It would be a little more comfortable if you did, though, just because I feel weird talking out of turn.
Yeah, I know. I was joking.
No, yeah. But after this, you don't have to if I'm frequently on here.
No, we should have a intro every time for our new producer.
Can you make a song to introduce me?
Your own walk-up song.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a riser, like a
yeah. Like Flash Gordon, the Flash Gordon theme song comes to mind.
Hey, well, when you're editing, you can throw that in there if you want,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you really could do.
I could do it actually.
Now you can pretty much do whatever you feel.
I'm in control now.
You have creative control, yeah.
But our most frequented guest now, to make it all clear, because none of that was clear. Our most frequented guest now is our producer, and also editor, but more importantly, producer, because no one cares really who is the editor of the podcast necessarily. But Jake has been on the podcast like 3 or 4 times now, and he is only above Brendan Betty. So
how many times has he been on?
He's been on twice. And you've been on like 3 times, I think, or something like that. So and John and I are, very swamped always at the offices with our file cabinets and our email inboxes, and we've needed help now for a long time, and the more Cinebums there are, the better always. So
hell yeah.
So we appreciate you coming on and being a part of this.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. Everybody, welcome. Yeah, there we go. Welcome, producer Jake, to the Cinebums HQ or family.
Thank you for having me. New spot on my resume just opened up.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You
can quit your job in no time.
I'll put in my 6-month notice.
I
have a 6-month plan.
As will John and I eventually. Yeah, we're on the 5-year, 2 to 5 year plan of quitting.
It's like the Michael Scott thing. Is like a 5-month, 45
points, 45 points per day.
Yeah.
You can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
It's a 45 a day, 45 point a day plan.
And limo lady, we are going completely carbon neutral.
Oh shit.
Yes. The podcast is carbon neutral now. So yeah, we're very grateful to have Jake on board now. And and this is a good one to have him on, because we were talking before we started that Jake has pretty much doubled my 2021 list with the amount of movies he has seen. So it'll be nice to go over some worst ones that maybe I've probably not seen. I'm looking forward to some surprises. But yeah, we just went over the best movies of the year, so now we got to go over the worst.
Well, and I think it's also important to say that Jake, he knows more about movies than both John and I. So
it's the oracle.
It's going. Yeah. So it's going to be very beneficial, and Jake's gonna bring a lot of like John and I have a lot of moments where we're like, this guy was really shitty in this movie. What's his name? That happens way too often. So now we're gonna have someone who will be like, oh, that's this guy's name. He was really shitty in that movie. Not like we're that, we're not that negative usually, but in this particular episode, we are going to be negative because it is it's the episode to be negative.
Yeah.
Like in our last episode, you have to feel very positive and be like, "Oh, I saw the Green Knight, and yeah, this is a good one." And like you feel the need to be very optimistic all the way through. But this is the opposite. This is more so what movie podcasts are made to do, which is why I'm excited to do this episode, because like it's where you get to like really dive into the nit and gritty of what went wrong all year in the industry to a degree. And this has always been a fun episode ever since I started doing this podcast with John. So I have some bad movies prepared for sure.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, we're keeping the balance going. We'll be back with more positive stuff too, but now we need to go.
Yeah, we're positive a lot, man. We're always we always try to stick up for the good movies.
Yeah. Last time we sang songs together from Annette. I don't think we'll be singing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, and we
won't
got
be any singing
tired during
today.
the episode too, and that's when you're talking about like all the really good movies. So I remember we like ran out of things to say during like Licorice Pizza, for instance.
Yeah, I had nothing to say.
Not
there.
Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so I think I also broke the record, not only being a 4-timers club on this podcast, but I think when we did our decade list, wasn't that about like a 3.5 hour episode? Maybe it was a 2-parter.
That might have been our longest.
Maybe our longest podcast.
That was incredibly long.
Yeah. That one would have been nice to have someone help edit for sure. So,
yeah. Oh boy.
But
that's where you first had the idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it would be nice to have an editor.
You know, it'd be great. Some help with this, please.
I'm deleting all of like my files on my computer just to save enough room for this podcast episode. Yeah.
Right.
Oh shit.
But yeah. Now I don't think this episode will be quite that long, but I guess we'll just do we'll just go around the circle, around the Zoom with our worst picks. I'm sure we'll probably have some crossover. We sure will. And you know what? I think Luke, if you're in agreement, I feel like since Jake
should go first.
Yeah, I think since Jake is the fresh one here, that he should go first.
Yeah, by all means.
It's an honor to go first. That's from the new Scream flick.
Who says that in Scream again?
The killer said that when they killed somebody, they said it's an honor.
Yeah, with the
a really
voice. That's
important character. Yeah. Do you know who plays the boyfriend in that movie?
No.
It's the son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. He was pretty good.
He was my favorite part of that movie, but it's just the first fun fact of many fun facts I'll bring.
Cool.
Okay.
Already bringing so much value to the table here.
Yeah, exactly. Already paying your salary.
Now you have to tell us who every actor we bring up. You have to tell us who their parents are,
where they grew up, where they went to college, who their improv teachers were. Okay. I feel like I'll start with a movie that I was just megally disappointed by because of the talent involved. And I don't know if either of you saw this, but Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright.
John saw it.
Yep. Okay. I
know that John saw it. I can't stop. You can't stop telling me about it.
I text him all the time about it. Yeah.
This British horror movie, man. No, I mean, I just didn't really enjoy this film at all. I think it's very style over substance. I think Edgar Wright's done a lot better in the past. He's great. He's directed some of the best action, comedy, horror, what have you. And this movie just felt very uninspired, kind of just like a homage movie. Just like imagine Once Upon a Time in Hollywood without any substance. Like it was more about like capturing a time period and a genre, which is like Italian horror or shit like that. And what was frustrating was that it was a really cool idea to make a really big budget, horror movie with A-list actors and talent, and just the narrative and the story were just so basic and boring, and the plot really went nowhere, and just a really frustrating time at the movies. And I always come back to that one when I say worst of the year, even though the movie's not horrendously bad. I just think it was really disappointing because it was Edgar Wright making a movie, and I'm always kind of excited to go to the theater to see one of his movies. So yeah, a big disappointment.
Yeah, I felt very similar. I mentioned it in our last episode that I think it's worth seeing because it's Edgar Wright, and like you said, I also get excited to just see what he does. But it for sure seemed like he is just like really excited to make a movie like this, but didn't really didn't really have like a clear, like, I don't know, vision of how to do it well. And I don't know if you feel the same way too, but his movies he does with like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are just, there's so much like joy and like heart to those, where then I feel like the ones he's done without them kind of drag a bit, and they're less it's definitely more style over substance then,
for sure.
Because like that, like Cornetto trilogy, that I just get so much joy from watching those. But then and I mentioned this multiple times on the podcast, but I got very like anxious watching Last Night in Soho, and it was like irritating.
Same.
Yeah.
And Shaun of the Dead is probably top 50 favorite movies of all time, and the rest of the Cornetto trilogy is really solid too. And I just feel like all of his movies, like you said, without Simon Pegg, who actually they co-wrote all those movies together, and I started to think like a lot of that, the joy and optimism and the playfulness of those movies came from Simon Pegg's point of view. Edgar Wright's kind of like more of a snobby film scholar who wants to sort of, pay homage to all these, classic films, which is great. Like a lot of filmmakers do that. But Last Night in Soho definitely felt like the most self-indulgent, and like, I was really anxious throughout that movie too for some reason. It was just kind of unsettling in the worst ways.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sounds rough.
Yeah, but for some reason, I still think people should see it. Yeah, I don't know.
I think because some people love that movie. I don't.
I was like, there were parts that I was starting to get into it, that I felt like I was maybe it was catching on with me, but then the further it went on, the more irritating it got as it went on. So
yeah, like the whole section where she's in college and she's kind of like alienating herself, and it's like she moves out of her dorm. Like I was really into all of that stuff, but it becomes really repetitive, when she starts having those visions and all that stuff, and it kind of repeats a lot of the same beats throughout for like 2 hours. I was kind of just checked out. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff about it. The production design's pretty top notch, and it's really well shot, but not much else after that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would watch it again on mute, maybe.
It looks great. Yeah, it looks really nice. So that's nice. My first pick.
All right, I don't know if I'll ever watch it after all I've heard about it.
I will not. Maybe watch it on mute.
I've heard nothing but not great things.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Should I go next?
Go for it.
Cool. So I'm like, I have no idea like what I'm not gonna talk about. Like I don't really have a range or I don't know. I think I'm gonna even talk about okay movies today. Just seems like a good reason. Because like if you say a movie's okay, it means like half of it probably didn't work. So I think the first movie I'm gonna talk about is, it almost could have made my honorable mentions list in our last episode because it is in the very, very middle of the pack. But the first movie is Paul Schrader's The Card Counter. which I actually kind of liked a little bit. So it's kind of weird that I'm bringing this up, but there is so much like that's totally not working maybe in the card counter that it should be on a flawed movies list, you might say. So Schrader in this here I'll talk about the plot really quickly. But essentially, Oscar Isaac plays a dude who counts cards, and he just travels around and plays blackjack, counting cards. And he has a lot of past trauma from his time in the military, or it's kind of the military. Is it like a more serious version of?
He basically tortured prisoners in the military.
Yeah,
with
like
Willem Dafoe as his supervisor.
Deep fucked up sector of the military, and he has a lot of post trauma from that, and so he's just addicted now to counting cards now in order to make his world feel like it's together in a way. And then he ends up meeting Tiffany Haddish, who ends up basically being his like sponsor for playing professional blackjack. And then he meets Ty Sheridan, who has a lot of issues of his own right, and he starts seeing Ty Sheridan as kind of like a younger version of himself, and he wants to basically help Ty Sheridan. It's very, if you like, I don't know, like it's very Taxi Driver and Schrader-esque from all fronts, like the whole story, like because he, like Ty Sheridan in a way is like Jodie Foster's character in Taxi Driver, and like Oscar Isaac is very much like Travis Bickle and how he's a loner, a loner and a man of the night, and lives a very unconventional life, and he clearly has done a lot of fucked up things in his past. So I like what Schrader's coming from on that regard. And in many ways, this is a very sophisticated film because it's very like there's a lot of really cool just shots in it, and like where you're like, oh wow, that was amazing. But like overall, this movie does not have as much going on as it thinks it does to me, and especially like a romance that brews between Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish, which is supposed to be like the main I don't know, the main thing that's holding everything together. Like the movie kind of makes the theory at the end that love like conquers all, and in the end you're kind of supposed to believe it's because of this half-assed romance done by Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish. Like that just kind of feels a little forced. So yeah, like I think it's worth watching, but overall I think it's kind of a slight swing and a miss from Schrader slightly, but not like a giant miss.
Yeah, I never got around to this one, but I wanted to catch it, but it was one that I didn't see like enough. I was definitely swayed by the public's opinion about it because I didn't see enough good things about it to make me want to like put the effort into seeing it. But really interesting to see a Paul Schrader movie with Tiffany Haddish in it, especially being a love interest of Oscar Isaac. That
and this is going to be weird to say, but I feel like Schrader has this like personal, like in the way Woody Allen did to like Mia Farrow and Scarlett Johansson. He seems like he has that towards Tiffany Haddish, which is which is just kind of weird because you're like, oh, I didn't think that, but I guess that makes sense with Paul Schrader. He's a different filmmaker, so like Tiffany Haddish has never been in a role like this, that's for sure. And I don't think she's casted entirely perfectly, but like this is like I feel like as serious a role as she gets.
Anything to add? Anybody else in the card counter?
Not much. I hated that movie. It's a piece of shit. I mean, yeah, it kind of felt like a B-side to First Reformed in a way. I didn't really care for it. But I like Oscar Isaac's performance was good, and it was just a downer to watch a movie like that during the state of the world. It was really bleak.
But yeah, it is a bleak, sad movie, and I like watched it to start the day because I was still preparing for the best of the year podcast, and I was thinking this could end up being on the best of the year, but it's in the end it's on the worst of the year and kind of in the middle.
A lot of people have it at the top of their list, and I don't know why.
Some people really fucking like it, like film critics. And I see that side to it, but I definitely think I lean more towards the bad for this movie. I just don't think it works. I would not say it's like complete shit, maybe, but like I don't. I think it has a lot that's not working.
Well, like you with Last Night in Soho, I guess I probably won't get around to the card counter.
He said it was okay, so maybe it might be half worth a watch.
Yeah, like I didn't really feel
streaming somewhere. Maybe I'll catch it.
It didn't bring me anxiety like you guys are talking about with the Last Night in Soho.
The end was really off-putting too, like in a good way, when him and Willem just disappear.
Yeah,
him and Willem just kind of disappear off frame.
Well, there's like this weird shot at the end where like Tiffany Haddish is like visiting Oscar Isaac in prison.
Yeah.
And they both end up putting their hands against the glass like this. And it's like this like
such horse shit.
It's like this artful shot of like their hands like there, and I'm just kind of like they hold it there for like so long, and I'm just kind of like, what the fuck?
It's laughable. I laughed so hard at that.
And I don't know if maybe one of you guys have seen this. I don't know if both of you have, but this one's actually at the bottom of my list, and for no other reason than when I first saw it earlier in 2021, I put it to the bottom of my list and I just never moved it. But it's Mortal Kombat, the new Mortal Kombat.
I've seen that at the bottom of your list.
It belongs there.
Yeah, and kind of sad. For some reason I was fairly excited for this, and I think it's because I have some nostalgia with the first Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s. My cousins introduced me to a lot of Paul W.S. Anderson movies when they were all older than me, and I was way too young, I think, to see like some of the Resident Evil movies when I did. But yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia and fond memories watching those movies with my cousins. And I thought maybe this would bring me back to that with this new one, and it did the exact opposite. Really hated it. I was never into it for one moment. That there's honestly, and it came out so long ago that I honestly can't even remember a whole lot that happened because I was so dismissive of it while watching it. Yeah, and I guess this is the only thing that Simon McQuoid, however you say his name, that he's directed. Nobody really stands out in the cast. Yeah, it was a huge dud. And I probably would not have watched it if it weren't on HBO Max.
Agreed.
So
it's a rough one.
Yeah. I don't have much more to add, but
there's not much to say. Yeah.
The first one I enjoyed. It like the first one's not like a great movie, but it's one of those that you can have a lot of enjoyment watching it with a group.
Cheesy 90s movie, yeah.
Exactly.
It's a blast.
And there's just a ridiculous Mortal Kombat song that goes with it too. There's no song in this one that was really new or refreshing to hear. So yeah, I hated this movie, and it's my worst of 2021. And we're re-energized, and we are ready for Jake's next pick.
Oh yeah. All right. This is kind of similar to Soho, where it was more of a huge letdown rather than just a giant heap of Mortal Kombat shit. But I'm talking about The Woman in the Window with Amy Adams. There was a straight to Netflix movie during quarantine. The reason why I was excited for this movie was, one, it was directed by Joe Wright, who's a great director. He did Atonement and Darkest Hour. Hannah, he has the movie Cyrano with Peter Dinklage coming out that supposedly is really great. It was written by Tracy Letts, who's one of my favorite writers in Hollywood. He wrote Killer Joe and Bug, and he's like a playwright from Chicago, who I'm just a huge fan of him. And the cast is just like a murderer's row of talent. You got Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Anthony Mackie, Brian Tyree Henry, Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, who I love. And the movie is just a mess. Like, you could tell there was probably half the movie is reshoots because they rewrote stuff in the script. So just logically, the movie makes no sense. But there is kind of a cheesiness factor in this movie that I kind of was drawn to. Like, Amy Adams is really swinging for the fence, playing this woman who's kind of delusioned, and she has some sort of condition where she can't leave her New York apartment, and she kind of becomes infatuated with their neighbors, who are Gary Oldman and Julianne Moore. And it kind of riffs off being like a Rear Window homage, but it just does not pay off in the end, and it's just a mess. And yeah, it was just kind of similar to Soho, where it was a movie I was looking forward to for a while. I'm a fan of all those people, and I just don't understand how that much talent could go into something. And it's literally one of the worst movies of last year, and just embarrassingly bad. And I would not recommend watching this out of curiosity. It's a mess.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about this movie.
I didn't know anything. Yeah, exactly. I don't know anything about it either. So when you brought up,
with good reason,
that, you're like, with Amy Adams, I was like, whoa, I haven't seen anything with Amy Adams this year, and I love Amy Adams. It's too bad that she's in a shitty movie, because she really isn't in shitty movies ever, at least I think. And yeah, with Gary Oldman and
Julianne Moore.
Just the top four on the poster is just very ridiculous to begin with. So that's just insane that they must have thought that this was going to be good, unless they were all contractually obligated by the people that represent them or whatever. But they must have there must have been something that got them together for this, because they're all great. So.
Yeah, they're A-list. A lot of them like Academy Award winners. I think the book was really popular, and for Amy Adams, like, I was really frustrated because like I think she's an amazing actress, and this was like similar to Arrival. It really could showcase a lot of her just quiet acting, where she's kind of by herself a lot of the time, which she's so good at, and she's so captivating, just her face. And this movie just didn't utilize her well.
Nocturnal Animals, she's very quiet the whole time.
She's just kind of somber, and there's a lot of subtext in her performances. And this was just kind of like, it felt like it was trying to be like a modern erotic thriller without any eroticism at all. And it was just but it's just a bizarre choice on the writing and everything. And it's honestly probably the more disappointing than Soho, just because Soho was more of like a big swing and a miss, and this just felt lazy, and that just always bothers me more. But yeah, feel bad for Amy and everybody in that movie. It was I think I'm gonna watch this
just for curiosity's sake.
It might be worth it, actually. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it.
It's bananas. So yeah, that goes for you too, John. If you want to have a wild ride down a weird rabbit hole.
I might. I do like Joe Wright. I've liked what he's done.
Looks
before,
a little Rear Window-esque, so like
it is. Yeah, Joe Wright's great. It's not unlike anything he's made. He's like historical dramas or like period pieces, and this was just like felt like any horror director could have stepped in. It was weird. It was him.
Yeah, it does seem very Rear Window-y. Yeah, maybe I'd check this one out too. Yeah.
Nice. Spreading the
Literally,
word.
I don't think I've even heard of this until you
Really?
mentioned it. Yeah.
No, me neither.
I feel like Netflix can be kind of sneaky with some of their original
Right,
movies.
like
They're just there.
out of all the ones they show, when you open it up, like how come I never saw this?
I saw
I don't
Don't
know
Look
how-
Up, like
Yeah.
things about Don't Look Up just constantly everywhere. Couldn't get away
Yep.
from it. And then nothing about this, or I'm sure there's other things too.
That's crazy.
I don't know, maybe we should transition then to Don't Look Up, because I could use it for my next one, and it feels, I don't know, I could ignore it, but like since you just mentioned it, I feel like I might as well just bring it up. And it's
Floodgates are open.
And there's
Let's
ones
do it,
like
yeah.
there's like, this is a really good one to talk about for this episode, and it's almost like one you want to save for the end, but I also have another one I'd like to save for the finale, if you will say. So like, yeah, let's talk about Don't Look Up now for just to make it even. And we all saw it, and I'm sure we all have a lot of high opinions on it. Jake, what was Don't Look Up nominated for?
Best Picture.
I can pull it up, but way too many things. I was worried that McKay was going to sneak in there for Best Director, and I would have been like,
oof.
That's a load of, yeah. Let me look, because there was a lot of stuff.
Before you hopped on, Luke, we were talking about Adam McKay a little bit and just what he's become now. And we talked about Vice, and I was so excited to see Vice when that came out, and then so disappointed when I watched it. And I feel like that actually set me up for Don't Look Up to keep my expectations low, and my low expectations were pretty much met. But
yeah, I still haven't seen Vice, but I'll watch it still just for curiosity's sake. But I'm sure it's not going to be that fun.
People say it's worse than Don't Look Up, which is hard to believe. But it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Editing, Best Music for Nicholas Bertel, which is, I actually really like the score in that movie, and Best Original Screenplay, which no good.
Yeah, it's funny because like one of my friends, Antonio, who's been on our Inherent Vice episode, he was going on rants like a couple weeks ago about how specifically what he didn't like about Don't Look Up was the editing, and it got nominated for Best Film Editing. And it's not like he was just, I mean, like, you don't like criticize editing if you don't have like actual technical quarrels with it. You don't like, no one's like, I don't know, it's not like the same where about people judging performances and like, like like citizens who say this dude was bad in this movie who know nothing about acting or anything like that. If someone's like judging editing, usually I feel like they know what they're talking about.
You know what, got nominated for Best Editing because it's something they do a lot where it has a lot of edits in the movie. So it's super flashy, and they're like, that's impressive that they could balance all of this.
There is a lot of edits, and there are too many edits.
It's it's headache inducing. It's terrible.
It is. It makes you kind of nauseous for sure. Along with the very, very obnoxious script and characters. And this was a movie I was actually like kind of rooting for. Like, I wish it was good because on concept I really thought it was like I liked what it stood for sure. And it really does seem like it's like a great concept for a modern movie and for a satire. And it's just on execution, Don't Look Up really just falls apart like over and over again as the movie goes on. And I think there's like very few things I like where I'm not like shaking my head at the lack of quality and the fact that it's just really not that smart of a movie in my opinion. And I think that on concept it's kind of smart, but in like page, like scene by scene, it's really not smart, and it's very tough to watch. And it's This is one of the more divisive movies of the year, I would say, because there are a lot of people who like it. As like as we were saying, it was nominated for a lot of Oscars, and I think it's also a popular opinion to like the movie because you're immediately being like, oh yeah, man, this is like real life right now, you know, the government and the environment and shit like that. And it's like, I mean, yeah, it is, but it's like this could be done better is all I'm saying, you know, like it's not on the level of like Doctor Strangelove or Network. It's really not. It's trying to be those films, but it's not on their level for me.
Yeah, it's very sanctimonious. It's like, yeah, just thinks that that's what my issue with Adam McKay now is, like he can make something like Step Brothers. Wow, what a perfect movie. And then when he tries to get too smart, like he knows more than you, and he's like and look at all these other people who don't know as much as me, you know, and it just doesn't work, and he just thinks I don't know. I just feel like he probably lives in this world where he is around people who agree with his point of view all the time, and he it was just this was also a very frustrating movie to get through because there's things like, what do you think, you are the only one who like notices this stuff? Like we're all thinking like this is pretty obvious stuff that he's pointing out about
and he's not like bringing
world.
new insights or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like he didn't really delve into any of it in a new way where it makes you actually like, I feel like the best satires in the end delve into it in a new way, into the layers, and the characters realize something where, I don't know, it's something like prophetic, or it makes you feel better about the world, like because it has the nuances to it, and it really just doesn't. It just throws it all in your face with no subtlety, and it makes you just kind of like annoyed and sick to your stomach. And like I feel like with movies like even like The Truman Show, which we talked about last summer, contains all those satirical everyday walk of life stuff, which is just it's just done. It's really just a bunch of people saying hi to each other, but it's like, you know, and like saying good morning in very 50s American way, but in the context and of the story and just in the way it's done just very cleverly to like where you're like, all right, this guy, he is spoofing something like the ad that his wife is doing, you know, like all that stuff. I just like when people like bad satire is very tiresome and very hard to watch, I feel. And I think it's very tough when people don't get what is the difference.
I think this movie has a lot of flair and fanciness put on because of the budget and the cast and the talent involved. And I think people overlook that it's aggressively like one-dimensional in its viewpoints on the world. And I think it just comes from a really angry and bitter place from Adam McKay. Like he even admits when people are like, so how did you come up with this concept? He's like, well, I go on Twitter and I read all this shit that makes me angry and it fuels my creative side to me. And you know, of course, like we're all fueled by the world around us, and you know, especially filmmakers, but his is like a direct reflection to the world in just the most one-dimensional way possible. Like it's like two intelligent and forward-thinking characters, and like literally everyone else is a piece of shit and they're terrible. And it's like there's no like tension or you know, nuance to the relationships in the movie, to the overall conflict, because it's just, you see the ending a mile away, because it's just the movie just like at a steady shittiness the whole movie.
Well, and to the point that you said he drew inspiration from like looking at Twitter, there are many moments where like the movie just puts up tweets,
you know,
in front of you, and it's just like
so
ugh.
lazy.
Yeah, it's just like ugh. And then like what's his name? Tyler Perry and her like dynamic.
Kate
Kate
Blanchett.
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
Wasted one of the best actresses in the world, by the way.
Their dynamic was like, okay, I get it. Like, there's people like this on TV all day and every day, but like they're in the whole movie practically, and you're just like, God, fucking damn it, this is so annoying. They're just making me sick. Like, who's actually getting like therapy out of any of this, like any of these actors, you know what I mean? Like,
the whole Meryl Streep thing is such like an obvious Trump allegory, which is just so exhausted at this point. It's like we all want to move past this, and he just brings it back in our faces. It's just kind of just aggravating.
Yeah, and going back to the Twitter thing too, like clearly this is inspired by Twitter, because Twitter, you see all this shit constantly, just all these like over exaggerated opinions on all these different things, all these arguments on all like the same stuff they're talking about here. And I'm sure Adam McKay just sees that and he thinks that that's reality, like that's how things actually are. It's not just like this echo chamber that he's looking at every day. It makes no sense. I also wanted to point out something. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I can't stand Mark Rylance when he is some like weird guy, like he isn't this.
He's doing like a Johnny Depp sort of thing, where he's just playing like. And he reminded me of
his character in Ready Player One, which is also a movie that I really don't like. And he's I hate him in that too. I just
he's
really
horrible in that. Yeah,
hate him, and I don't have a whole lot of like good reasons why. It's just his vibes on screen when he's this weird guy. It's just so off-putting.
Yeah.
Where it's almost
I
like
never
it seems
enjoyed
like
either in this. Every time his character came, I was like, oh God. And he's always talking to Meryl and Jonah Hill too, and I'm always like, oh.
You know, Jonah Hill, there were parts of his character that I did like. I did think he was funny a couple times, but I think it's just because it was Jonah Hill.
Right.
And I was trying to find anything to like, but yeah.
He's like the only comedic actor in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, like they're all kind of fairly dramatic actors.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I watched a lot of press on this movie, and there's just a lot of talk about how the production went. And, you know, if you watch a lot of press, you see the same stories over and over again. So you'd hear things like J-Law and Leo and Meryl Streep would always be like, yeah, you know, we really got the opportunity to improvise all the time, and Jonah was killing it on set with his one-liners. And I'm like, oh, I bet, like, I'm just like picturing the things he's saying all the time, like just all the douchey things. And like, it's funny because it's coming from that same like kind of like directing approach as like the movies from the 2000s that McKay made. It's just now it's for a like sophisticated satire that's really trying to make a point in a world-changing way, and it doesn't work the same when you don't have you could definitely say when you don't have Will Ferrell at your disposal, and you're not using the same like as off the walls a comedic tone, and you're trying to maybe be more like sophisticated with it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we could talk about Don't Look Up. I think this was therapeutic.
There's a huge majority of people that I think a lot of people love it too, because it aligns with their political beliefs a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah.
It's the movie we need right now. It's like it has the same thoughts I've been having about the state of the world, but it's like doesn't mean it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you just make a very obvious like liberal movie, and like, or just like fuck the government, which everyone thinks sort of thing, and then just put it out there, and then like everyone's like, yeah, I agree with this. Hell yeah. Don't Look Up. Yeah.
That's what Vice was too, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact.
Okay.
Same exact thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, have we covered Don't Look Up enough?
We could probably talk a full episode, but
yeah,
I guess so. I do like the end where they're like at the dinner table scene. I do like that.
That's my favorite part. Yeah.
That's like
that felt genuine. Yeah.
it is genuine, and I just wish the movie was more like that and had more of a emotional weight to it, because it really could have used it. And there's a lot of opportunity for conflict from on an emotional level with this the concept of this movie, and the movie doesn't try to have it at all until the end there.
Yeah, the Leo and like all of them around the table, like the dread on their faces is like really damn captivating. But again, yeah, to the last like 10 minutes, you're like, I've watched a heap of shit before all this, so I don't really connect to this at all at this point. But it's a glimmer of how that movie could have been great. I feel like is that final, I guess, third act, the tail end. But
yeah, would it be funny if Leo like won an Oscar for Don't Look Up, and at the Oscars they played "We're All Gonna Die"? That's like his Oscar reel.
That's a great Oscar clip, though.
Well, for mine, I'll go with Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I wanted to. I still need to get to it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
You don't have to see it, but if you're curious enough, then yeah, go for it. But yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now I will preface it that I am a big fan of the original Ghostbusters. And one of the things about the original Ghostbusters is that it's a pretty cynical movie. And the dynamic between the four guys, mainly between Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis, I think is just really great. You know, Bill Murray is the cynical one, whereas Harold Ramis is clearly that, you know, he's all into the science of it, and Dan Aykroyd too, and it just works. But it's a very cynical adult movie. And then for Ghostbusters Afterlife, they decided, let's take that same IP but make it this inspirational kids movie, and I don't see how that really like correlates, or you like, because the whole point of Ghostbusters is a comedy. It's not some inspirational story. They literally have, Rick Moranis' character in that is just a completely bonkers, ridiculous, crazy guy.
A very tragic character.
Yeah,
yes, he is very much so. And this just could not be further from that. And so it's interesting that they bring in Jason Reitman to direct this, who is the son of Ivan Reitman, who made the first one.
A little nepotism there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because these could not be more different versions of this like world in this movie. And this may be I feel like this will say a lot about this movie and just the state of the mainstream film industry now. And I may be hypocritical that I'm criticizing this, but there's a character in this movie and his name is Podcast. And his name is Podcast because he has a podcast about all these supernatural things and whatever. And he's just an annoying little kid. It's a bunch of annoying little kids, and they meet up for, of course, they bring back Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd. They come back, and Bill Murray's phoning it in. Dan Aykroyd maybe seems like he cares. Ernie Hudson, he seems like a great guy. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do, but seems great. And then the best part of it all is, I'm not. This is a spoiler, but it doesn't matter. But they bring a Force ghost, Harold Ramis, into it in the end. It is bonkers. It is just, it's almost as bad as in like the Star Wars edits that like George Lucas made, where he brings in Hayden Christensen as a Force ghost for like Darth Vader in the end, which is pretty funny. But this, obviously like ghosts are a part of this story, but there's just a moment at the end where there's just the ghost of Harold Ramis right there, and it's just,
now I'm a ghost. He's a ghost now.
It's so weird. And Yeah, I don't know.
How's Paul Rudd in this movie? The sexiest man.
He's fine. I mean, he's charismatic. He always is. But
there's ghosts over there.
Cool. Yeah, it would be great if he was like one of his more like comedic characters in this, but he's just like a teacher, and he gets all wrapped up into all this too. It's very basic. It's very, I don't know. It's just definitely made for children and everything. But they bring back Annie Potts too, so they went all in on trying to get the original cast in it as much as they could. But yeah, it's just dull. It's very cheesy, and I also the mom in this is the worst person in the world. She's just I just referenced a 2021 movie that I haven't seen, but she's just awful. She hates Harold Ramis, who is her dad, for never being around and all this. And also you'll like watch this movie and you'll realize all the characters talk so much about how they have no idea about who Harold Ramis was when he was alive. They don't know anything about him, but then at the same time they know everything about him, and they know all of these like stories about him, and it's so confusing. They're like, oh yeah, he was never around. Oh yeah, he never did this. He was a negligent father. Like, I never saw him. But then she'd also like say all these things that he did and when was like doing. And it's like, okay,
they make all this like bullshit fan fiction up that we don't need about like a movie. Like, they create all this drama based off of a movie that was dramaless and like from the 80s. That's just like a straight like silly comedy that shouldn't be taken seriously. Yeah, just to create this movie. Yeah, I feel like I've been watching a lot of that lately. Just bullshit drama thrown together so that they can have a movie. Yeah,
they're just trying to strike a chord with families, I guess. And maybe they're trying to cater it towards all the grown men who were Ghostbusters fans growing up, and now they have children and they want to get them to the theater.
He was never around.
Yeah. And they're all good. They're like tearing up when they see the Force Ghost Harold Ramis, and it's
dear Lord.
I remember like I was going to the movies like in November to see like Spencer or whatever, and like the amount of like Ghostbusters theaters that were being taken up, it was like, like what Spider-Man is now. Almost like there was just Ghostbusters in almost every theater. Like the IMAX theater at the AMC was Ghostbusters, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I didn't realize this was that big of a deal.
That movie bombed too at the box office, so I guess their plan didn't work. It was like really underperformed.
This might have been scheduled to come out last year in 2020 and was pushed back?
Probably.
I don't know if that's right or not, but
I think it was summer of 2020. Yeah, and it's like everything else got pushed back.
Yeah, but the original was a comedy, a cynical comedy movie written by guys from SNL in the 70s. Doing cocaine and writing comedy sketches. Like, this is not some like cheesy, sappy family movie.
You could tell from the trailer, it doesn't capture the spirit of 80s SNL comedies, because it feels like it's like a sprinkle of everything that's wrong with Hollywood. It's like everyone likes stories about kids now. Like, they watch Stranger Things in the It movies, so they'll make it about the next, future generation, and we'll sprinkle in some cameos so people will cheer and they'll forget that the movie was probably a piece of shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just want to see things they recognize. That's all. Completely soulless. But
that's depressing.
Yeah, that's Ghostbusters Afterlife. Really didn't like it at all. All right.
Should I try to fit mine in within this 7 minutes?
If you think you can,
I think I could do it.
Okay.
I'll pick something that I don't have a ton to say about, because there's a few that I could really go into, but why not? I'll talk about Black Widow for a second. Um,
That just seems like a one to bring up quickly if you're going to.
like because I could talk about Marvel as a whole is a conversation that we.
So I was thinking real quick before you get into that. I was thinking about watching like all the like bad Marvel movies before like this episode, but of course I didn't.
Did you see Black Widow or no?
No,
Okay.
I haven't seen any single Marvel movie this year except for Shang-Chi, which is like the most random one you could probably watch. I feel.
Sadly, Shang-Chi was like the best Marvel movie I saw this year. Yeah, Black Widow is kind of riding on what John was talking about. Like it's all designed to appease Marvel fans that were like, "Hey, you never made a movie about Scarlett Johansson." Yeah. It was literally an afterthought.
Yeah.
Like Scarlett Johansson never got a movie. She dies in the Avengers movie pretty soullessly. And then they're like, we could probably bring in like $400 million if we make a Black Widow movie and just make the most standard story and directed with zero, flair or inspiration, and cast some pretty great people in it. Like the cast is like insanely great, and it's just such a boring character dynamics between them, which is I feel that with a lot of Marvel movies, to be honest. It feels like green screen and talking heads, but I would just infinitely bored watching this movie, man. And like one of the worst things, I hate getting dragged to a theater on opening night of a Marvel movie, and that's what this was. And usually people are like hooting and hollering for anything, and this movie was like dead silent the whole time, which was like really unheard of. And I love Scarlett Johansson. Like, who doesn't love Scarlett Johansson? And it's like, make a female-led action movie because you want to do it, not just because we have like this thorn in our side. We never made this movie with this character. It just was like offensive in a way, because it was like, we have to make a female-led superhero movie like once every 3 years. We did it with Captain Marvel, and that was a POS. And now we have to do it with ScarJo because we're contractually obligated to do it. It was just like, in one ear, out the other. It's a piece of junk. Black Widow. John, did you see it? Did you happen to catch that one?
I actually started watching Black Widow one night. Occasionally I'll just be in a mood of like, you know what, why don't I just watch a Marvel movie? And
we all get
I remember starting it late at night, and then I was just getting tired, and I was like not really into it. And then I went just to, probably watch YouTube videos or something before I went to sleep, and instead of finishing it, and then never went back to it after that.
You see the Nirvana montage and you're like, I'm out on this one.
I don't even remember a Nirvana montage.
It's like the opening credits are like Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it shows her kicking ass. And it's like, oh boy.
See, that's how they'll get some people to like really buy into it. They like grown men who really love Nirvana, and they'll see that and be like, yeah, this is sick.
Hot chicks kicking ass.
Yeah. Smells like Teen Spirit and tight clothes. Hell yeah.
Spandex. Florence Pugh.
Oh yeah, I forgot Florence Pugh.
Yeah,
they got her at the height of her popularity.
Yeah.
She kills it in the movie. Honestly, she's like the only remotely watchable part, but not good enough.
Yeah, I've genuinely wanted to watch Eternals.
Me too.
That's a long one. That's
like a 3-hour potential terrible time.
Yeah.
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 I know. I wanted to see that one because Kumail Nanjiani was in it. He's like a totally different person. Yeah.
And the I was about to say the Snows, but they're like the Starks, not the Snows.
The Snows.
Oh.
Why did you help fight Thanos?
I love how they got both of them in there. It's just, like you just see them both side by side in the trailer. That was a trailer for Eternals I saw like when we saw the last Duel, and I was kind of like, holy shit, they're throwing like every random person into this movie that they can. Who are even the Eternals? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of into it.
yeah, I guess anything more for Black Widow before we hit our next break here?
I just feel like I had to bring up a Marvel movie because the fatigue is at an all-time high, and that kind of prompted it because I was like,
and
this isn't a movie.
If anyone's listening who's like waiting for possible Spider-Man talk, because they're like, oh my God, it wasn't on the best of, it wasn't a top 5 movie. They must hate it. It's not even going to be on, I don't think, any of our lists. So just shut us off if that's what you're waiting for.
I haven't seen it, so
same.
Yeah, none of us have seen it.
I do want
Kimmel
to.
Is
but...
was really mad the other night that Spider-Man was not nominated for the Oscars. He was like, how did it not, like, so many people saw it, it had 3 Spider-Man. I'm like, Jimmy, this must be because you work for ABC, because like, why else, like what reason do you have to endorse this movie and like root for one that made so much money, unless he really was genuinely like, oh, I love Spider-Man. I mean, maybe he probably,
you never know.
I know, but like,
Dick Rose,
Disney's paying his paycheck though. They're signing his checks.
Exactly. So. I just feel like
he doesn't.
I don't know. There's other movies that you could root for, like real underdog movies that you could root for more harder than that.
He's not going to be like Power of the Dog. Why?
I'm so glad that got how come no one saw Power of the Dog? I haven't seen those strip clubs James Harden memes.
Dude,
oh, really?
They're hilarious.
Yeah.
Look them up. They're so funny.
Fuck. Yeah. How come I haven't seen those?
They're mostly on Twitter, I feel like.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. Do you follow Worldwide Wob on Twitter?
I've seen their posts, yeah.
He's like a big NBA Twitter guy. He's super funny.
He's hilarious.
Yeah. NBA Twitter's been really funny today with the trades.
Fuck. Yeah, I only have Twitter for like music stuff, and it's really like a mess of music on there stuff, and so I don't know who to follow or what to follow for all like the good stuff on Twitter, like the funny stuff.
Yeah, I've mainly just seen it through like other people.
Yeah,
who other people retweet and like, constantly. And like that guy was one of them who I started following like last year at some point because I always saw his stuff and he's super funny.
Yeah, nice. Because maybe I'll just follow what you guys are following, because like I hate my Twitter. I never open it up because it's just the music industry that I'm following. So it's just like a giant mess.
Yeah. I can only handle so much of Twitter per day because it does just get exhausting. But there's on a day like today, it's
the trade deadline day is a great day. Usually, it's like a holiday now.
Totally, yeah.
All right, my next movie is The Hitman's Bodyguard. Actually, no, it's The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. So I was going to bring
that up too. So good.
Yeah. I have the wrong one on my list. I have The Hitman's Bodyguard.
You put the wrong one on there.
Wait, did you watch? Which one did you watch? Did you watch?
I watched the Hitman's Wife.
Oh, okay.
So is that the sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard?
Yeah, I haven't seen the first one either.
And you guys watched the sequels?
I just saw the first one was on HBO Max, and I was like, should I watch the first one?
Yeah,
life's too short to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, life's too short.
I didn't find it very confusing.
No.
Despite that, like I don't think I missed that much.
Yeah. You probably just miss how like Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, like whatever brings them together, whatever circumstances.
How do they become friends?
Exactly.
Yeah.
from my perspective, it was like, okay, they knew each other from a previous job, which must have been the first movie. Now he's meeting his wife. Now he needs to work with them both. So it really didn't feel like I'd missed that much. I mean, if you had missed the first and the second and jumped to the third, I would say you probably haven't missed that much either. Another thing, just going off with the theme of my Letterboxd being messed up, if you follow us on Instagram, I have like a movie for my second favorite of the year, a different Tick Tick Boom than the Lin-Manuel Miranda, Andrew Garfield one. It is like a Tick Tick Boom with no cover art. So I don't know what Tick Tick Boom I have up there, but it is not the one I like. Another thing that is messed up is on my Letterboxd, I have my 2022 list, and I've called it Scream for some reason.
Oh, because you put Scream in there.
Yeah, so for some reason I named the list Scream.
Is that that's the only movie on the list?
No, I have Jackass Forever and Scream. But the list is just called Scream. It's just those two movies. So I need to get better at this.
People are going to think that you actually liked Scream. Like, oh, he must have been a Scream guy if he named his list after it.
Yeah, this year is all about Scream.
Nothing
is Jackass Forever a part of the Scream universe? Is that what Luke's
yeah, because of all the
they scream. Yeah.
In Scream, they're going like, oh,
yeah,
like
Steve-O
Steve-O's like,
beats the
all
shit
right,
out
come
of it.
on. They actually do it. Those would actually be the perfect guys to cast in the Scream movies. Like, you cast Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O in Scream.
See, like Wee Man is like the killer or something.
Yeah, he's like running after them, like they actually fall down the stairs when they fall, like all that stuff.
They're like, ah.
Yeah, they all come out after they like chase Sidney Prescott, like all the Jackass guys.
You guys are maniacs.
That would be actually one of their scariest pranks if they actually had someone with a knife trying to kill them and then running through like a house. That would be for sure their scariest one. Well, it would be up there. But yeah,
pretty messed up.
Yeah, we also super fucked up.
Yeah. Back to the hitman's
wife. Anyways, this film was directed by Patrick Hughes, who has also directed the first Hitman's Bodyguard and The Expendables 3. And that is it, I think.
It ends there.
But, I will say, out of all the like bad blockbusters on my list, this is the one that felt like the most aware of itself, and I probably enjoyed this the most just because it was kind of off the walls and really just didn't give a fuck. And that's kind of what I'm looking for in movies like this. Like, I definitely wasn't bored that often, and that's the worst if you're watching a bad movie when you're bored. And there's a lot of aspects that make The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. It kind of feels like you're watching these actors act in a commercial always instead of an actual movie, because they're so true to their shtick and like the way they speak. Like Ryan Reynolds is always doing his thing where he's like neurotic, but he's, Ryan Reynolds. And then Samuel L. Jackson, he projects and says motherfucker because we've heard him say motherfucker a lot. And Salma Hayek has just her heavy accent, and Ryan Reynolds is like, oh, you guys don't want to do that. You guys don't want to do that. And that's just like how this movie's going the whole time. So it's a very low quality thing going on, but I would say it's one of the more enjoyable shitty movies you can watch this year.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but it just, it wasn't very good. But like you said, like it does have a self-awareness about it, and it's trying to be a little bit more it's trying to be a little bit more like Deadpool, like what Ryan Reynolds does nowadays. Like, I remember when the first one came out, never saw it, but they had a poster for it, and it was like a spoof of The Bodyguard, the Kevin Costner Whitney Houston, where like Kevin Costner's like carrying her. So they had like Samuel L. Jackson carrying Ryan Reynolds in the poster. So it's trying to be, a little cheeky and self-aware and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of, it's just like fine. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think like these type of movies, I don't know what compelled me to watch it, but just sort of like a action movie like this, I'm not usually like drawn to. And I feel like the general public wasn't really either, because I feel like this movie was not seen by a ton of people. But yeah, it's also, I didn't have like hatred towards it like I do with Mortal Kombat or Don't Look Up or Ghostbusters or something too.
I also noticed Ryan Reynolds he's really gotten to this point where he's like, I don't know, he's just kind of riding the wave of like not only his fandom, but like what everyone wants him to be doing, which is stuff like this where he's very neurotic, but not really like in a very like popular way. Like just his style of comedy in these big blockbusters. Like if you guys also saw Free Guy, or like something like that, just the way he's speaking always, where he's like, oh, that's not the right way of doing it, but okay, like I'm ultra careful bodyguard in this, like Salma Hayek and Sam Jackson in this movie are always killing people. Salma Hayek, and in her character opening, kills so many people, and she has this machine gun and she's just going after everyone, and Ryan Reynolds like, we don't want to spill blood, and like she's like, I don't care, and she just like shoots everyone. And then there's a scene where like her and Sam are just like making out like while driving the car for some reason. And
Ryan Reynolds, he's the hitman.
Yeah, he's the
I
hitman.
thought she was with Ryan Reynolds.
No. So yeah, she's with Sam. And so they're together, and so they're making out, and then that's like Ryan Reynolds. Couple. Yeah, it is. And so then Ryan Reynolds is like, oh, I'll just drive then. He just like awkwardly like pops by them while they're making out in the front seat. He drives from the back seat. And it's just kind of things like that throughout this movie, where Ryan Reynolds is the weird third wheel to Salma Hayek and Sam Jackson. And it's like, it's worth watching, but it's kind of like, did we really need this dynamic? You know, like, I'm happy you guys did the work to put this this group together, but it's also like, this is such a low quality movie. And also, what's his name? Not Robert Red. Antonio Banderas is in this movie.
Of course, if Salma Hayek's in it.
Antonio Banderas is the villain in this movie. So that's kind of fun at times.
And Morgan Freeman is also in it too.
Of course.
Yes. And Morgan Freeman plays Ryan Reynolds' dad, which is one of the most ridiculous things ever.
It's like some Lost World bullshit.
He literally like, they're like, this is my dad. And then like Sam's like, what the fuck? And then they're like, what's so weird about it? He's my dad. And he just keeps saying, it's just like, the only reason they did it is like for the bid on just moment. Like just that Ryan Reynolds is white, Morgan Freeman's black. And so they're like, it's never like explained. It's never brought up again. It's just this ridiculous thing where he's his dad. And Morgan Freeman ends up being, like a villain in the movie too, and they end up like fighting towards the end. And Morgan Freeman goes like, I'm 90 years old. I just like, and he just like starts punching Ryan Reynolds. I was
gonna say, he's like pushing 90 years old and he's fighting like in shape Ryan Reynolds. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, kind of a weird movie.
Well, it's also like, when's the last time did I see Morgan Freeman in anything? And now he's in this as Ryan Reynolds' dad.
Good point.
Yeah. And he's barely there too.
Yeah,
like he pretty much just shows up.
I didn't even remember that he was in it until I just looked at the cast again. I was like, oh yeah, Morgan Freeman was there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's the Hitman's
Hitman's
wife's
Wife's
bodyguard.
Bodyguard. Yeah. All right. One I'll bring up next. I'm sure both of you have seen. It's Space Jam: A New Legacy.
I skipped it.
Yep.
Really? Yeah.
I skipped that one.
I don't blame
saw
you.
it.
Yeah.
This is at the bottom of my list.
The very bottom.
The dead bottom, yep, because
Yeah.
I do think it is the worst movie I saw, if I'm really breaking it down.
This is pretty bad. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even there's not a whole lot to say because I think from the get-go I expected it to be fairly bad. And it's another one of these. We talked a little bit with Ghostbusters Afterlife about everyone wants to see these kids doing things. Like they want to see kids being geniuses because we all know how smart kids are. Kids are all, when they're like 10 years old and they're creating these video games that are, only made by like huge game studios.
Right. He did it all on his like laptop.
Yeah, but for some reason, LeBron James' 10-year-old son can also do the same thing that like 40 people on 40 like software engineers will
I do
doing.
like that this year there was a lot of gaming movies, kind of like Free Guy is in my probably one of my least later. Like I don't really like Free Guy completely, but I do like the gaming aspect in Free Guy. And I, as said in our last episode, I love the gaming aspect in Matrix Resurrections.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
I forget always that Space Jam the Space Jam: A New Legacy is highly revolved around gaming and programming and just that futuristic stuff.
yeah. And I definitely have a lot of nostalgia for the first Space Jam, but it is for sure not a good movie either. So you can, I mean, if this came out years ago, who knows, maybe it would be more regarded. But yeah, there's just this is again, it just gets the very cheesy, overly optimistic, kids are amazing and geniuses type of deal. And something that just really bothered me too is is just LeBron and his acting. For some reason I could tolerate Michael a little bit more, but LeBron, when he's like playing that game with his kid and like something goes wrong and they're like in his room, something goes wrong and the kid's like, oh man, like I'm never gonna make this game work, like it stinks. And he's like, and then he turns to him and he's like, listen, when life's gonna throw adversity at you, like you have to take that adversity head on. And he like gives him this whole like bullshit optimistic speech. It's like, what dad talks to their kid like this every like just like a random, they're just like playing a video game in his room and something goes like a little tiny thing goes wrong and he gives him this whole spiel on life and adversity that you're going to face.
Doesn't
in
he
life.
Bring up something like when I left Cleveland or something like that? Doesn't he say like, doesn't he use an example from his career? Like exactly.
And it just does not make sense. It does not correlate. Like he's a 10-year-old making this game. It is insane that he created this game on his own, and there's like a little glitch in it. And it's like, there's like massive games that come out and there's bugs in them when they come out. And but yeah, they're just like in his room and he's always giving like these like impassioned, like positive speeches about facing adversity in life. And it's just like, why would he talk to his son like this?
Like, you better be putting in that work. That's all he says, like over and over again. It's you got to put in that work. He says that to his sons, and it's just like, all right, we get it, LeBron. You put in the work. You're a fucking athlete. You work a lot, like, and then like his son invented the game, but there's like tension about like how he still wants his son to hoop, and it's like, like I don't know, like it's just stupid. It's like his son clearly has a thing going, like, but he's also really good at basketball. So he's like, I want him to hoop. And so like, yeah, it's just kind of poor writing for LeBron's character all the way through, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it is just the writing is just awful. And you're like looking at the writers listed, like there's 6 writers. That's kind of a sign that like, okay, this is gonna be a weird mix of a movie.
LeBron had people like his team do punch-ups on the script to make him look better.
Well,
He
yeah,
brought a whole team.
There's a lot of like showing, just like with the first Space Jam and Michael Jordan, there's definitely a lot of like montages of LeBron doing
career.
like his career and doing all these great things. And of course they get Ryan Coogler on as a producer just to exploit his name.
He was gonna direct it originally, and he was like, nope.
Really?
He probably read the script. He's like, this is some bullshit, and walked away.
So I don't see how anyone could make that movie good, really. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
And who do they get from the NBA again? It's like Anthony Davis is in there. Is Damian Lillard in there?
Dame, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. And they're all just like these robotic
they look
guys,
like Silver Surfer type guys.
And they all
Diana Taurasi is in it too.
Oh, she's like a WNBA player.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did enjoy
Super is
like
in it too.
Cheadle in this movie. He's kind of fun. Like
he looks like he's having a good time.
Whoa, the game is going off. We're gonna get LeBron. And it's like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, it was interesting seeing a great actor like Don Cheadle in this. He kidnaps LeBron James' son and puts him in his virtual world.
Yeah, he literally is trying to turn him against him, LeBron, in the game world.
Yeah. Oh, he's the villain, it turns out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's the villain because
he creates games too. Yeah.
yeah.
Your son
is like have LeBron's kid be making games. Yeah.
And then like when they start like messing with the programming of the game, LeBron's kid like changes the rules, like so it's like more what's that old basketball game? NBA Jam.
NBA Jam.
That everyone play. Yeah. So it's like more like, I don't know, it's not conventional basketball rules. So like LeBron's son is like flipping up in the air and like dunking it or something. And LeBron's like, hey, what's that? And they're like, that's not how basketball's played. And they're like, and
Jesus
like that
Christ.
sort of thing. And then I think Ernie Johnson and Shaq maybe are there commenting the game, or is it Ernie Johnson and someone else?
No, it's Ernie Johnson and Lil Rel, I think.
Yes, Lil Rel. I knew Lil Rel was in there.
Because Lil Rel's popular right now, so they gotta throw him in there.
He was like in the Uncle Drew movie too.
Yeah, and then the audience during the game, like the crowd is just all the Warner Brothers IPs you can imagine just thrown in there.
Which is the biggest thing we haven't gotten to yet, to like why I think it's the worst movie, is because it just throws in all the Warner Brothers IPs, and like there's Game of Thrones references, there's all these Harry Potter references, and they use the fact that they're in this game world to go to all those worlds, and it makes it easily the most unoriginal movie of like I've seen in ages. Like it's amazing how like there's layers to how unoriginal Space Jam: A New Legacy is.
Does LeBron say Crucio and performs the
All right, he does. I'm pretty sure he goes there and like playfully casts a spell in like the Harry Potter world. He doesn't like do the Crucio spell. He does like I'm pretty sure he does like the one that everyone learns first.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Yeah, like that one, or like whatever. And it's like animated LeBron too, so at least you're not seeing like his like full live action acting there.
This sounds like the
just
worst
his voice acting
thing ever.
I forgot about the Game of Thrones part too. There are White Walkers in this, aren't there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there are White Walkers in Space Jam movie. And I was just looking at the cast again, and I did actually, the only part that I maybe thought was slightly funny but it was also pretty obvious, is when Michael B. Jordan showed up. It wasn't because he's listed on the cast, and I'm pretty sure I'm remembering there was a moment where they're like, oh my god, we're gonna get Michael Jordan to like join our team, whatever, and then Michael B. Jordan ends up being the one that walks out, and then everybody's like disappointed. That's a
decent joke.
That I thought was maybe the only part that I thought that I liked a little bit.
I do remember being like, oh hell yeah, it's Michael B. Jordan. That's really it. Like I was like, oh, here's a positive thing.
There's an actor in this. Yeah.
And he just like shows up like in street gear, like just standing there, and he doesn't really do much.
He doesn't have a line. He just kind of.
No, he talk. He definitely has lines.
It's probably an easy paycheck for him, though.
Yeah.
So here's how the movie ends, though. At the end, like LeBron's finally accepted that his son's great at coding video games, and he's like, "It's all right, son. You don't have to play basketball if you don't want to." And then he's like, "Dad, I'm actually gonna do both." And he like holds up his shoes, and it's like, "Oh hell yeah, LeBron's son is gonna play basketball." Like, ugh.
Hey, speaking of LeBron's son, did you know Bronny James's high school team played against Glenbard West in Chicago last week?
Oh shit! No, I did not.
Yeah.
Did they
very random
wrecked them?
Anecdote. No, they they should have, but they only won by 3. Which I was just reading about it, and it was like a big shocker that Glenbard West actually like hung up there with them. But
for Glen Ellen, that's like a big deal.
Oh yeah,
just to have like LeBron's son in town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like DeMar DeRozan was there at the like courtside watching stuff. So
was LeBron there?
I don't know. I only saw.
I mean, he has games.
Yeah,
so
aren't they're like in the middle of their season.
It was in Chicago, so it was a lot easier for DeMar DeRozan to get there.
Right, right. So he can be like, for a networking thing, be like, "Hey, LeBron, I saw the game. Your son."
He's like, "Who are you again?"
Yeah, I think it was just DeMar DeRozan and Javonte Green that were there, but
that's cool though,
that's
man.
pretty
like,
wild.
If we were in high school and that happened, we'd be like,
"Oh my god!"
Oh,
yeah, we'd be losing our minds. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess that's Space Jam. Luke, do you have anything else to?
No.
Yeah, yeah.
That was fun.
That was a fun one to talk about, though. Yeah,
funny to listen to for sure.
Yeah, Jake, I don't blame you if you never end up watching it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance.
Yeah. Again, life is short.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch the new Space Jam.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna bring up probably the one that pissed me off the most this year. I left the most angered coming out of the theater was Halloween Kills. The sequel
we know of this.
To the Halloween remake. Did you guys review this or something?
We talked about it for our horror episode.
The horror series.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably just reiterate what you guys talked about, but I mean, I wasn't really huge on the first Gordon Green one. I liked it. It was a nice little fun remake, but this kind of just took what was great about that one, which was very little in my opinion, and kind of went the very generic route of making just the goriest movie possible. This movie takes so many ridiculously just mind-numbingly bad turns, and just kind of ruins the lore and the magic of the original Halloween, which was like he made him more of a mythical sort of just force of nature and kind of inexplainable just force of evil. And this movie kind of tries to take that similar approach and just try to make a very, I don't know, there's no subtlety anymore. It was so gory and kind of tasteless, and the writing was just horrendously bad. And like kind of the theme of the movie is like Michael Myers turning the town evil and against each other. And at one point, literally, someone just says that out loud, and you're like,
Yeah,
or
I think the girl in it who I went to grade school with says he's turning us against each other. Yeah, like...
Then the sheriff, the guy who's like in the hospital when shit's constantly just insane and hitting the fan, and he literally like, he wants this to happen to us. We are better than this, in whatever fucking town.
Yeah, but yet they still all go like, ah, and they're like, let's go kill the guy.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the sheer stupidity of the town as a whole, which is so ridiculous. And then the movie just doesn't fulfill the promise of like, oh, we're gonna team up against Michael Myers, and like this is this kind of this finality to it. Like it really ramps it up to be like the highest body count of the whole series, which it is. I think there's like a lot of carnage in it.
Well, in that last scene, they're all like going at him.
Yeah,
because like Judy Greer like leads him there. She's like, look at us now, and they all go like,
yeah.
But then he just like overtakes all of them and just kills them all brutally. It's just like, holy fuck.
That's just really all it was, just scene to scene of him being like this sort of unstoppable killing force without any really substance to anything really happening in the movie. I don't know. It just felt like just a shameless attempt at another version of remaking this franchise. It's like they're just beating it into the ground, and that's all I kept feeling whenever someone dies in this movie. I'm like, you're just keep bastardizing this character and turning him to like kind of a joke and kind of into like this modern just killing machine it doesn't, there's not much to it other than that. And the original Halloween especially is just such a, I think I'm probably one of the best horror movies ever made, and they're like kind of riding the coattails of everything. Like there's the whole introduction where they kind of sort of recreate the aesthetic of the 78 Halloween. Like it's shot with the same film stock. They try to get actors that look like Loomis and all that stuff. It's just kind of like, it's too nostalgic heavy for me. I just don't care about it. It's like, give me something new. And I left pissed off, and I don't care about these movies really much anymore. So yeah, not good.
Yeah, I just realized this wasn't on my 2021 list. So I just got it added now. And yeah, it's towards the bottom of mine too. Yeah, I even forgot that we did an episode on this. It seems so long ago. But yeah, I was also not a huge fan of this. But I also just last year watched the who's the director?
David Gordon Green.
Yeah. I watched the 2018 one that he did just before Halloween Kills. And I enjoyed that one fine enough. Right. Yeah. We I think we talked about this one a good amount on that episode.
Yeah, we did. It's kind of fun how like ridiculous it is, but it's also like they're destroying something you love right in front of you, so that's also kind of shitty.
That's the thing, like this one's directly correlated to the original, like not any subsequent sequels. Like it's just like even Carpenter endorses the first movie, at least. It's like it's directly connected to his like original vision.
There's even like a scene with Ben Tramer.
Yeah.
Not with Ben Tramer.
They mention him.
Will Patton says like, she's like, why didn't you ever hit on me in high school? As they're like now they're now like 70 and they're talking about this in a hospital bed, and he's like, you were always talking to Ben Tramer in chemistry class, and I was like, really? Like you had to write that in there?
That's the thing, like they're putting all these like ordinary characters from the original Halloween on like a huge pedestal.
Yeah, like Ben Tramer's not even in the movie. He's just like mentioned in passing in the first movie.
And then the lady who's a Real Housewife now, who was the girl being babysat in the first, she's in it too, Kyle Richards. Yeah.
And
Doyle.
It's Tommy who leads the riots, and
Tommy who looks like he has an alcohol issue, and just the whole thing of putting all those characters in this movie just felt off. I don't know, like it's like, why these like ancillary characters? They didn't mean that much in the original. Why are they like the centerpiece of this remake? It's like, introduce some new characters for once.
Yeah. This might have been a Red Letter Media video, but I saw there's some super cut of Jamie Lee Curtis doing press for this movie, and she just kept she's like, this movie it's really about trauma, and she just keeps like saying that over and over again, and then she mentions all the characters that are like from the original that are in this now, and she's like, oh, and like Denise the nurse. It's like,
right,
who?
The nurse.
It's like, why?
It's about her trauma.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, well, like she's a part of it now. Why? And
it's like taking Jaws and taking like the lady whose son was eaten by a shark and making a Jaws remake, and she's there like at a bar giving a speech about the shark or something like that. It's like, there's no real purpose to that other than to have a film fan who loved the original Halloween go like, oh wow, they're back in this movie, just covering up the fact that the plot of that movie is just so basic and boring and hollow and terrible. They just knew they didn't have much, so they cover it up with like those characters, and Jamie Lee's barely in the movie. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I remember you mentioned when we were talking about before about how like you saw also in an interview with Jamie Lee like how the riots are an allegory for like the current times, and how it's
Black
like
Lives Matter.
For Black Lives Matter.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, she said that in an interview. I forgot about
this
that.
This feels
too,
very relevant.
It's like this people protest or like a mob starting to kill Michael Myers is not related to Black Lives Matter at all. Jamie Lee, come on.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I think there's just like a super cut of that, and when she gets that, it's like, oh no, she's gonna say Black Lives Matter, isn't she? She's gonna say it. She's gonna, oh my god, she said it. Yeah. But I don't blame her. I love Jamie Lee. I think she's just doing her job.
I feel like that would have been a big headline, and she'd have gotten a lot more backlash if more people gave a shit about this movie, and then it just probably went under the radar because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Jamie Lee, like I like in the 2018 Gordon Green movie, like their whole generational thing of like the granddaughter-daughter relationship was pretty cool way to introduce the franchise again. It's like, trauma, as she says, and then kind of how it affects her personal life and her family life and all that stuff was like felt really authentic in the first movie. And this is just kind of like you barely remember their kind of like the weight of that relationship, even though it wasn't that strong. But it's like all of that development in that first movie kind of just you didn't feel it whatsoever in this movie, because everyone just scattered around town and like just a mess.
Yeah, it seems like they're gonna make another one too, aren't they?
They are.
Trilogy.
It definitely seems like it.
To cap it off with another the same thing happening in the third movie.
And I think I will enjoy the next one, because I am like, these first two prepared me for just a finale that has no nothing good going for it, and I'm gonna be like, all right, let's go, let's see what happens. And
can't go into it disappointed. Yeah,
it feels like each one they really do go for it, despite maybe doing it in the wrong way. Like they're always trying to do something at least. So we'll see with what they try to do with the finale. All right, I'll bring up a weird one. A weird one, but a bad one. This movie is called. It's on Amazon Prime. If you guys want to check it out, it's called Bliss, and it stars Owen Wilson. He's got a big movie this week.
Yeah, I know what this is.
And also, it's another one with Salma Hayek, baby. It's man, the plot of this movie is so weird.
It's like that sci-fi movie, right?
It's sci-fi. So essentially, Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek kind of find each other, and they discover that they're like the only two like awakened ones in this world of asleep people, basically. And so they can do things like telekinesis around the world and stuff, and they basically live this weird and freeing life, and they do whatever they want. They just like live on the street, and they end up like they have sex a lot, and and they
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, and and like the movie through all this kind of tries to make this big philosophical argument about life and our world and existence, and it just really doesn't have anything to say, and it's very it's just very not subtle. And Salma Hayek says like a lot of the time she's like, that's not you, that's just the simulation. Like the amount of time she says simulation, like that they're in a simulation, it just over and over again.
This is the Matrix.
Yeah, it's kind of like if like it was the Matrix and like say Joe Pantoliano and some girl were to just be like, all right, hedonism now in the Matrix because nothing matters and we are aware that we're in the Matrix. And that's kind of what this is, except it's a very bad version of it. And it's just really weird and random, and kind of like Don't Look Up. I feel like the actors did it because they're like, oh, this is like, this movie has a lot of potential and it's good for the world and has a lot to say, but it falls short of all those things. And but it's also one of the weirdest movies I've seen to come out, so I would say it's worth checking out just for that.
I've also never heard anything about this movie at all. I had no idea this existed until right now. But I'm kind of interested to see it.
Find your bliss, man. I
kind of want to see it.
We all
Amazon
have
Prime.
bliss.
It was one of those things. I just was scrolling on Amazon Prime, and I was like, what is that? Like these two together?
Yeah, the duo alone is pretty intriguing.
I'm drawn to both of these actors, and I'm obviously drawn to Salma Hayek as I watch The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, not The Hitman's Bodyguard, and I've wanted to see Drunk Parents for a while now too, so I'll watch anything with Salma Hayek in it. Big Grown Ups fan here as well. So.
Yeah, it's like all her like shitty movies that you're talking about.
Yeah. She's most known for Grown Ups, The Hitman's Wife, Bodyguard, and Bliss. Those are her top three.
She's also, don't forget, she's in House of Gucci, which is in our honorable mentions. She's the voodoo lady in House of Gucci?
Yeah. Apparently, I liked her in House of Gucci. Yeah,
she was good. Convinced her to kill Adam Driver, basically.
With
voodoo.
Yeah,
I know. Kill that man.
Doesn't she like get the money too, or something like that, or is she organizes? Lady Gaga gives the money. She organizes the hitman.
She somehow knew a bunch of hitmen.
What a weirdo, man! Like what a weird character.
The character makes no sense. Yeah.
I know it doesn't.
Yeah, what a movie. Yeah. All right.
That's it with Bliss.
Wait, so House of Gucci was like an honorable mention for best movie?
For best movie, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's on a lot of it's on a lot of people's worst movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say
which we are not about here. we support House of Gucci on this podcast.
I love
Father,
whatever weird Ridley Scott projects that come up. I'm in for now. If there's gonna be weird costumes, Ben Affleck with a blonde goatee and Jared Leto in a fat suit and ridiculous Italian accent, I'm here for it.
Yeah, he made me like Jared Leto, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
I watched The Little Things with Jared Leto, and Jared Leto plays a serial killer in it, and he's just so weird and one note and creepy, and he's always just like, I am a serial killer. I am Jared Leto. That's how he speaks like the whole time.
It's Denzel.
And Denzel's just like, oh
right?
yeah, you're a serial killer.
I forgot that movie existed. That was like early 2021.
Yeah, I watched that for this episode, but it's not really worth bringing up, except for that.
Yeah.
All right. Oh well. Side note: I'm excited to see the Owen Wilson J-Lo movie.
100%.
As am I. As am I. The trailer
like
killed me in the theaters.
Yeah.
It's just.
We'll have to talk about that one. I'm sure we'll talk about that eventually.
Full-on review would be great.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Bliss. Well. Okay. The next one I'll bring up is one that I didn't absolutely hate, and I think I talked about it like a long time ago on an episode. But Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder zombie movie, which I didn't absolutely hate. I actually enjoyed parts of this, but I think my biggest quarrel with it is that it didn't go as hard as it could have with the Vegas zombie apocalypse type movie. That it starts out when that the opening montage where the zombies are taking over Vegas, and I was like, oh, this might be a super fun, like really great just zombie movie in general. And it really, the montage should have been expanded into a full movie.
That should have been the content.
But they instead focus the rest of like the 2+ hours on this drab, destroyed Vegas where the zombies have already taken over and they're taking them out. So that was super disappointing because it's this super exciting, like the zombies are taking over every part of Vegas, and it's just so ridiculous and off the wall, and then it's like, oh, okay, then it's over, and now here we are, and Vegas is already taken over and destroyed by zombies. So the fun part was taken out of it. But with that being said, I still did enjoy this movie, and something too, Tig Notaro was replaced last minute, or she replaced Chris D'Elia last minute because of his whole pedophilia shit that came out, and so she never actually was there with the rest of the cast filming this. And I thought she was great, and I thought her character was really funny, and I thought that was the best thing Zack Snyder did, was replace Chris D'Elia with Tig Notaro.
I had no idea. I didn't know Chris D'Elia acted at all.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's going to be doing
anymore.
Much acting anymore. Yeah. But yeah, my biggest I don't know. My biggest quarrel with it is that it just didn't go all out with the Vegas style. They could have done so much more with it. And there was a lot of weird. It was also shot very weird, and there were a lot of things that were like out of focus, and it seemed like it was intentional.
I remember you saying this, yeah.
But I don't really know why it was intentional, and
it's just out of focus.
Maybe it was a mistake, but they tried to make it seem on purpose. Yeah.
Zack Snyder is a weird way of shooting things now, where it's like very intense close-ups where everything else is out of focus, and it's kind of like disorienting.
Yeah.
Especially in like a zombie action movie with like a really giant, like vast location in Vegas. It's just odd.
Yeah. And like there were times where you could for sure tell that it was purposeful what they would focus on, but you're like, why would you focus on that and not this? Like
It's
this is
weird.
so much less interesting than what is happening, but you can barely even see what's happening. Yeah. And then I guess there another movie that came out with like the German guy or Scandinavian guy in this. There's like Army of Thieves.
Army of Thieves, yeah.
I don't know if that was a movie or show. Something came out and it has that character who's like the code breaker or whatever, who I found to be really annoying. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's Army of the Dead.
I was gonna get to this because I was trying to like match up with what you've watched, and like it was just like long, and so I couldn't I couldn't do it.
It's not really worth sitting through, in my opinion. Like the first 20 minutes are pretty astounding, but then it gets kind of, it's dreary and kind of, I don't know. It doesn't deliver on a zombie heist in Vegas at all, in my opinion. But there's some really fun sequences for sure. Batista's kicking ass, so there's stuff to like.
Yeah, and Batista is likable and everything, but yeah, it's it's really that opening montage that really got me. It's like, what could have been?
Yeah, exactly.
If you didn't just speed through the best part of the movie.
Can I just name two that you guys haven't heard of real quick, and probably never will ever watch? That are literally at the bottom three. One is Reminiscence with Hugh Jackman. You probably saw vague trailers for this movie and you thought, oh, that just looks like an Inception ripoff. And it is, because it's directed by, her name's Lisa Joy, and she's the wife of Jonathan Nolan, who's Chris's brother. And apparently Jonathan was like gonna direct. So
she also does the trippy mind-bending sci-fi writing, like Jonathan.
She tried to.
That's funny.
She's a writer.
I wonder what those two talk about all the time.
Well, it's interesting because this movie, it's very much more psychology based, because like Inception and Westworld too. They kind of try to blend that with spectacle and sort of very highfalutin questions, and this movie tries to do that in a more profound way, I guess. Like she tries to focus more on the themes of the movie than the spectacle of making like a giant sci-fi sort of like mind-bending movie. But it's just a painful 2-hour experience of just exposition thrown in your face with really one-dimensional characters. And Hugh Jackman has like never been bad in a movie, but I think that's the first time he's truly been just miscasted and not honed into what the tone of the movie is, which is odd because he's never off base. But in this, I felt like the whole movie just kind of like what I talked about Woman in the Window, is like you could tell they reshot like half the movie because nothing makes sense, and it's just a discombobulated mess. And to ride off that, I want to mention another sci-fi movie that was probably worse. It was called Voyagers, with Johnny Depp's daughter and Ty Sheridan starring, and Colin Farrell in a quick role. This is directed by Neil Berger, who directed Limitless, aka like the most unsubtle sci-fi sort of exploration movie. And this is kind of what you were talking about with Bliss. It's like this hedonistic approach to sci-fi, where it's like they're on this ship, and I don't even remember what happens in this fucking.
It looks like they're just fucking the whole time.
Yeah, they
we're the Voyagers.
They were born on the ship, so they don't really know what like personality traits are and what sensation is. And they start, and like the leader, Colin Farrell, like just dies randomly. So all hell breaks loose, and they start fucking each other, and there's like a power dynamic shift. But again, it's like that, it doesn't go all out, and it's just so dull and obvious and boring, and you could predict every beat of it. And I don't know why I saw that in the theater, but it's probably the worst sci-fi movie of the year, and there's nothing good I could say about it. So I just had to mention those two because there's like nothing, there's like no positives I could possibly draw out of those movies, and they were just like literally felt like a waste of time when I finished them.
I always forget about Neil Berger. He made The Divergent, Limitless, The Upside with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston that I always mean to see, but I don't think I ever will.
It's not going to be good if it's a Neil Berger.
Yeah, I've seen The Upside, and it's not worth it. But, you know, I
just
do remember
so fun
seeing
how he's on his wheelchair, you know, going like, like we're going on this ride together.
It's a remake of like a French movie that's supposed to be amazing, and I think
the Intouchables or something.
Intouchables,
like
that. Yeah, there you go. So, Neil Berger, Limitless was a movie that was like on the concept alone. I remember people were always on board for it, but it's like not
swept the nation, that movie.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it is a cool concept, of course, but it's not a really standout movie.
I remember seeing the trailer for Reminiscence, and it reminded me of that. There's a movie a few years ago called like Transcendence, which was directed by the guy who's like the cinematographer for Christopher Nolan. Really talented cinematographer, and then makes this sci-fi movie that sounds just like it. Like, let's name it something like Reminiscence or Transcendence. And it's like trippy, and it's like Inception, you know, but it's not. And it's it's just like trying to be so interesting and cool, and what about this like science stuff, and it's just never really works. I remember seeing the trailers for Reminiscence and not being super psyched about seeing it.
All right, my next movie is Malcolm and Marie, which is a early 2021 movie.
I was gonna say, I didn't remember that was 2021.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a relevant thing to bring back as Euphoria is out and is a week-to-week show that I'm watching, and is like, I don't know, really the talk of the town, or whatever you want to call it. Like, everyone, like in Seinfeld, we like to call it a water cooler show, you know, like Zendaya was running around with her drugs last week on Euphoria. Like, Euphoria is just like, it's the biggest show at the moment, and it's, you know, same lead, same director and writer, and so it's just relevant for the time. And Malcolm and Marie is somewhere they were going a somewhat different route, and they were clearly like, oh, like, we made Euphoria season 1, we're on this high of like creativity, we're great collaborators, and we're going to make a very sophisticated film with a lot to say, and it's going to look great, and John David Washington's going to be in it, and it's all going to be in this one place, and it's going to be all dialogue, and it's going to give me, Sam Levinson, the opportunity to show off my writing ability even more. And it really just ended up being this very self-indulgent, tough to sit through movie, where Malcolm and Marie just like, they fight, and then they make up, and they have sex, and then they fight again, and then they make up again and have sex, and then they fight again, and that's just but it's just like done in different areas of this house, really. And it's really just all about, like, I don't know, John David Washington has this ego as a director, and Zendaya is like, oh, you're like, I'm your like trophy wife, and I never get the attention or whatever, and like, she's like going at him all the time. She just like always is yelling at him, and it's so, you don't really get why either. It's just so hard to watch, and Zendaya and John David Washington, they're just like acting so hard as if like this script is like the Bible to them or something. And there really is, there's like in the end, like there isn't that much going on. And I was very disappointed because I loved Euphoria season 1, and Malcolm and Marie was not good, and Euphoria season 2 is not good a lot of the times, and so it's kind of sad that those collaborators fell off a little bit.
There's actually so I know why he made Malcolm and Marie, because so he made this film Assassination Nation before Euphoria. It was like a year before Euphoria got greenlit, and that movie is like very transgressive and in your face and very polarizing, just like his show. And he took that movie to like Cannes or Venice Film Festival, whatever, and all the critics like shat on it really badly. And apparently he went back to like he went back home to LA and he wrote Malcolm and Marie based on that experience of people not understanding his art and kind of trying to box him in and stuff like that. So yeah, it comes from a very privileged and very kind of childish place where he's like, no one understands me or my art, not even my girl wife.
He ends up making it about like that he's a black director, like John David Washington, how he had to overcome it as a black director. I'm like, Sam Levinson, you're not a black director. Like, why are you writing this?
He's trying to cover up. He's like, it's like, even, you know, African American directors are insecure too. Is like, we're all the same. Like, no, you can't say that. He has no insight to like how black directors feel. It just felt very personal, but at the same time, he didn't really. There was no insight to like to being an artist or whatever, because he was just kind of whining the whole fucking movie about people don't understand me.
It's a rough one.
Yeah,
it's an ambitious one, and a lot of the times it's in the right place for like what filmmaking should be, but it's just it's not good.
He watched a Cassavetes movie or something and he was like, I could do that too. Just confine myself and make something really just stripped down, but not really, because Euphoria is the opposite.
Yeah, I never got around to Malcolm and Marie, and it probably won't. Based on the past 5 minutes of conversation, I don't think I will ever get to it. All right, I think this is probably the last one that I'll have to bring up, and I won't say too much because we covered it a lot in one of our Bender episodes last year when it came out. But Cry Macho is one towards the bottom of my list too. And I just didn't like it much at all, and I do not enjoy sexual tension between Clint Eastwood and a much younger, beautiful woman who should not be pursuing any sort of sexual interest with Clint Eastwood in the first place. And that's pretty much all I gotta say.
She ends up being his savior, though.
True, yeah.
Or gets him out of the West, or whatever his I don't know, his character's like recurring conflict, whatever the hell it is in that movie. It's like, I just want to settle down and be with her. I'm so sick of walking around with this kid all movie. I just want to settle down with the woman I met over that in the bar that one time.
Yeah. I wasn't into it. Wasn't into Cry Macho.
I just can't get that image out of my head of them like dancing at the end, and like Clint's like barely like standing up as he's like dancing with her, but it's he's just kind of like waddling along with her. I just wasn't a huge fan of much of that, and seeing like, of course, this 90-year-old actor director would put this scene in where he's being seduced by a beautiful woman who is not only way out of his league, but could be his granddaughter, essentially. So After the mule, it isn't that far-fetched that he would do it. I was not surprised,
True.
but I was also like, really, man, more of the like more of this? Like, what is he gonna be doing?
The mule is like peak old man horniness. Like, there's like 2 threesomes in that movie, and like every woman besides his family flirts with him in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't enjoy that type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is he gonna be like, dating Jennifer Lopez in the next movie or something? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
With the route he's going.
Yeah, that's probably where it'll take him next, is him and J Lo
like,
in
he
a
always
rom-com like
covers
Owen
himself.
Wilson.
He always covers himself because he's like, they're always pursuing him in the movie.
Yeah,
you know what
right.
I mean? Like, they're always like, they always see him and they're always like, oh, like, and they just like touch his shoulder, like something, like,
yeah,
like rub his chest or something like that. You're like, come on, he's like a bag of bones, this guy.
Ooh, who's this mysterious frail old man?
Right.
No testosterone left in his body.
Man, it's so sexy and hot how he can barely walk on his own. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just stays in bed all day for me to play with him. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, he can barely get out of bed. Oh, my kind of man. Yeah.
He's just a toy. He's just a toy to me. A sex object. I do say another disappointment was being the Ricardos. Because a Lucille Ball movie I would have preferred to have been good.
That movie's
especially
good. That movie's not like bad.
I didn't. Yeah, and maybe it's not bad, but I didn't think it was. I definitely didn't think it was good.
I have it like right next to House of Gucci.
Oh, how dare you!
I felt being the Ricardos was a little disappointing, just story wise. I didn't think it had a lot. I thought like there was a lot like it more could have done with like all the everything going on here and like everything Lucille Ball was going through. And there's a lot of like those scenes where it's just like her like kind of like cycling through her issues on the show, on the set, and I don't think those ever went anywhere. Amy Poehler is also directing a Lucille Ball. Well, she directed a Lucille Ball documentary this past year, so it's you've got like double Lucille Ball stuff coming out, which is cool.
But like, speaking of Amy Poehler, I am definitely in the camp with I think there was a lot of backlash of Lucille Ball as like a comedy icon, and they have Nicole Kidman playing her, who, of course, Nicole Kidman is a great actor and everything, but yeah, I don't know. There's probably so many other like comedic women that could play this role so much better, and just, I don't know, pay homage to who Lucille Ball was more.
Yeah. I didn't find her very funny in this. That's for sure. Like, she's just like, because she's always rattling off the Sorkin dialogue. She's like, hey, hon, I do physical comedy and I smoke and I talk deep. Like, I do physical comedy, hon. That's what you pay me for. I talk shit to everyone I work with. That's really all it was. Yeah. She wasn't like, you didn't see like the charm or like the funny side as much. It was all very serious and dreary.
Yeah. And of course, like, there's the personal life side of it isn't as glamorous, and they're like touching on that, and her marriage to Desi Arnaz, but there's also like so much like charisma and like bright things about her that that side of it I just didn't really think came across. And I wish I could maybe Amy Poehler is not someone for this role, but there's for sure so many comedic actresses that could do something great with a character like Lucille Ball.
J.K. Simmons got like nominated for an Oscar for this movie. And like
That's
I
some
thought he was just
bullshit.
kind of like funny. Like it's all like he had some funny lines, and that's like really it. Like I didn't find him like an Oscar-worthy nominated performance is just ridiculous.
It's because he's
Wow.
playing a
For
very
me.
well-known character actor. But yeah, it's like he beat out like Bradley Cooper and Licorice Pizza. That's insane. Like I don't remember. He had one very memorable sequence, but yeah, it's like, come on now.
Seems kind of like, I don't know. He was kind of an underdog when he won the Oscar for Whiplash, and so it seems like now he's sort of a
He's a
whenever
darling.
whenever they can shoo him in for a nomination, they'll put him in. Not that he's not great, but I think he's at his best when he's J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man, but
Yeah,
He'll never
absolutely.
surpass that.
he never got nominated for that. So I guess that's our worst of 2021.
That's the worst of the year.
There were some in this episode that weren't absolutely terrible. I actually there were maybe it's just because I didn't see enough, but I think the ones on my list, there was a few that I really hated, but then others that I just they were fine, and maybe like worth seeing. But yeah, I feel like I can remember in the past really hating some for our worst of episodes. But yeah, that's besides
Yeah.
the point.
There's like a couple jokers this year. Like I consider like Don't Look Up as like a joker. Malcolm and Marie is a bit of a joker for me too.
Yeah, there's for sure some popular ones that we didn't really like. Yeah, but I guess we'll be back again with maybe a more positive episode and to balance this one out. We'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be the awards month episode coming up. So we're gonna like have to write our own award show basically, and see what that ends up being, because we don't know what it's gonna be either.
Yeah, we'll have our own awards that we'll give out. That who cares what the Academy thinks?
To everyone who deserves it.
Everyone's gonna get an award. Yeah, participation trophies for everybody. That's what it'll be. Yeah.
Yeah.